We've got a real problem. See, most people don't know what they're talking about. I do, so subscribe, follow along. Donald Trump is following through with his global tariffs. Breaking news, President Donald Trump just announced that the 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico will officially start March 4th, 2025. Last time he implemented this, we saw a market dip. Today, he says the tariffs are going forward on time, on schedule. This is an abuse that took place for many, many years. Well, hey, you just listen to him. Start preparing for when this happens.
We're on time with the tariffs, and it seems like that's moving along very rapidly. The tariffs are going forward on time, on schedule. This is an abuse that took place for many, many years. And I'm not even blaming the other countries that did this. I blame our leadership for allowing it to happen. You know, who can blame them if they made these great deals with the United States, took advantage of the United States on manufacturing, on just about everything, every aspect that you can imagine they took advantage of. I look at some of these agreements, I'd read them at night, and I'd say, who would ever sign a thing like this? So the tariffs will go forward, yes, and we're going to make up a lot of territory. All we want is reciprocal. We want reciprocity. We want to have the same. So if somebody charges us, we charge them. It's very simple, but it'll be very good for our country. Our country will be extremely liquid and rich again.
Hey, Altcoin Daily Nation. You need to sign up for the Bitcoin Reward credit card by our partner Fold. Reserve your spot today. Only so many waitlist spots are being accepted. This is US only. This is the most baller way to stack Bitcoin. You whip out this nice metal Fold credit card and you earn real Bitcoin. Use my link below and get on the waitlist immediately. So, our videos are never financial advice, as you know, but I do think that Bitcoin is a good entry point if you have a long-term outlook. Could it fall to the 80K range? I do think this is maybe likely in the 80K range. It could. Now, market expert Tom Lee says that he even thinks it could fall to maybe the 70K range, just above the previous bull market all-time high. He says he thinks this might happen. This is a possibility. He does like Bitcoin in this area. If it falls this low, it would be a generational buying opportunity.
Are you saying that this is a fair and good price to get in, or are you saying wait because you think it's going farther down?
You know, Bitcoin is something you need to be long-term focused. I don't think anyone's going to lose money buying here at 90. If they're trying to time this, maybe they'll get lucky and it goes to 70. But to me, Bitcoin could be significantly higher this year, you know, maybe 200, 250. So I think 90 is still a good entry point.
Here's the thing. If you look at the fundamental shift that is happening on Wall Street and in the banking sector with crypto right now, you can only really come to one conclusion, that banks are chomping at the bit to get involved with all of this. Crypto will be a lot bigger in the future, and you still have a chance to accumulate Bitcoin in crypto and front run the banks getting in because they love crypto. The mainstream just doesn't know about it yet. Tom Lee explains what's really going on.
The second business they'd love to do is to get involved with products with a lot of volatility. That is how banks make money. Goldman's trading acumen and JP Morgan's is because they trade volatility and they collect a huge premium or spread for allowing clients to trade. Well, what is the most volatile asset in the world that's $2 trillion? It's Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. So the trading parts of these businesses, if they're allowed to trade them, and the banking part of this would love to be involved in cryptocurrencies. And of course, who are the biggest banks and traders in the world? U.S. banks.
It's all starting to kind of make sense for some people out there with regard to why there's such a huge push for the U.S. to be more involved in this. Whether you're not fundamentally you agree or not, there are obviously going to be detractors and proponents, but the conversation is being had at this level because of many of the things that you just brought up.
So anybody here can get in front of all this because there are ETFs they can acquire.
So, my friends, all you need is a little patience. 2025 is playing out just like 2017. Very similar macro structure. 28% plus pullbacks for Bitcoin's price. Most lasted 2 to 3 months before a new high. Alts saw 65% plus corrections. All were noise because the market just kept going higher.
My view is Bitcoin easily gets to 100 this year and probably is, 150 plus by March before it corrects again. And then we finish the year after a larger correction with a very strong rally into the end.
So the tariffs, the global uncertainty is bad for crypto in the short term, but look at what else Trump is doing. Anthony Pompliano, who's close to the Trump administration, claims that the Trump administration will establish a Mar-a-Lago Accord with tariffs, a sovereign wealth fund, and security payments for the U.S. This will weaken the dollar and boost Bitcoin's price. If this all happens, a global monetary reset is underway and Bitcoin will emerge at its core. Pomp explains.
Do you think if the Fed doesn't cut this year, is there any reason for Bitcoin to go up? It's so, I mean, it just, to me, it looks like every time it looks like an easing cycle is coming, that's when it goes. And when it looks like it isn't, even though it's counterintuitive because you get a hot inflation number, that's why you supposedly own things like gold and Bitcoin because of inflation. But a hot inflation number means the Fed doesn't cut. So,
yeah.
and then Bitcoin goes down.
Yeah, there was this great study done by this guy, Sam Callahan, and what he basically said was Bitcoin is the most sensitive asset to global liquidity. So global liquidity is really, really important to pay attention to.
Well, that's just a risk-on thing.
To a point. Now, the other thing I'm paying attention to is this idea that's being popularized by Jim Bianco, which is the Mar-a-Lago Accord. And basically the idea is that the dollar's too strong, and instead what we're going to use is we're going to use tariffs, we're going to go and we're going to use the sovereign wealth fund, and then we're also going to get payment for security. Those three things, the general idea is to reduce the debt, get interest rates down, and weaken the dollar. If you're able to do that, I think that would be very good for Bitcoin and for stocks. And so the question is, how successful are they going to be in implementing this plan? We know the sovereign wealth fund is coming. We know that they're implementing the tariffs. Can they get the payment for security in Europe is another question. But I think that these are all things that they're trying to do, and that would be good for asset prices.
So speaking of fundamental shifts, we're seeing the SEC pull a full 180. Robinhood, Coinbase, OpenSea, no longer in the SEC's crosshairs. They used to be attacking crypto companies, now they're retreating. So the most important thing that you need to remember, if you ever have any doubts on whether Bitcoin gets to these higher prices someday, remember, Trump not only received major money from the crypto industry, but Trump and everyone Trump is appointing holds Bitcoin. Anthony Pompliano explains what a huge deal this is.
What do you make, though, of just a broader conversation about money in politics? Because clearly the money is what's had a huge impact, right? There was not a lot of money going into, the Biden administration, and they had whatever their view was of crypto. Now there's an administration that had a lot of money put behind it.
Yeah, money in politics is a really interesting thing because on one hand, you have the person who actually raised less money and spent less money became the president in this election. But on the other hand, definitely money is something that is going to change people's mind. But I think that the more important thing for Trump and his administration is that they all actually own these assets. If you go through the cabinet, if you go through a lot of the nominations, they own Bitcoin. And so
is that not trouble you, though? Because I think that you and others have come out quite publicly and said, there have been questions about Nancy Pelosi and her husband and questions about all sorts of folks in Congress who have owned different stocks or assets. And people have said this is totally wrong and totally conflicted. Now this administration owns all of these assets, and everyone's like, it's fine. And actually, it's a good thing because they understand it better now.
So that's the double-edged sword, right? I actually don't think people have a problem with politicians owning stocks. One of my favorite stats is Ken Langone once gave an interview, and he said that his average holding period is 42 years. People aren't really worried about what decisions he's making on a day-to-day basis. I think the problem that people have is when you're actually actively trading around certain events that are occurring. So it's the action of trading versus just holding for a long term. Same thing with Bitcoin is if we have people who are actively trading Bitcoin based on different things that politicians are doing, I think that would be a problem. But if people are just buying, holding, dollar cost averaging into...
How do you feel about meme coins then? President and the president's wife?
Yeah, I think that meme coins are a pretty big distraction from what actually is going to end up being the work that people need to focus on. And you see that, Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, I don't see anyone talking about putting meme coins in there. I think that there is an understanding that there's kind of an entertainment angle to a lot of this industry. But the really serious people, the people who want to go and actually have a positive impact on the country and on the economy, they're focused on Bitcoin.
My name is Aaron. This is Altcoin Daily. Make sure you subscribe. My friends, when people say, I wanted to buy Bitcoin on the last dip, guess what, guys? This is that last dip. If you believe in the asset class's long-term future, and I do. See you tomorrow, my friends.